Okay, so this is going to be part one of a three-part series that I did with today's guest, Heather DeSiena. We just had way too much to talk about. So we are going to talk about in episode one, heart-centered negotiation. Episode two is going to be how no deal is better than a bad deal. And episode three is going to be how we should be swiping left on mediocrity. We are not here for mediocre things. So this is part one of a three-part series with Heather DeSiena. Like, comment, share, subscribe so you can catch the rest of the series. Let's get to it. All right, friends, welcome to another episode of the Divorce Curious podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mitchell, and I have brought you an absolute banger guest today. You know, I don't miss. I'm lucky enough to know a lot of really amazing people.
I'm flattered already.
Right? No, I'm super excited. And just, full disclosure here, we did not really prep a whole lot on what we're
Really
going to
not.
cover today because we have yapped enough in the past to know that whatever comes out is going to be exactly right and it's going to be useful to everybody listening and watching.
It's going to be a fun conversation no matter what. I'm actually excited to see where it goes because I feel like we have so much we could talk about. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, at the end, we're going to be as surprised as you guys are listening to this right now or watching this. All right, so I have Heather DeSiena on the other side of this conversation with me today. And I'll tell you what, like there are some people that you meet for the first time. We were introduced by a mutual friend and a friend of our show here, Dave Thompson of Wicklander-Zulowski and the Truth Be Told podcast, because good people know good people and yappers know yappers. And so we share the goodness when we get somebody who does a great episode.
We all end up talking somehow.
We all end up friends and trying to, finagle a happy hour across time zones and geographies. Yeah. So Heather I love that you are like the perfect mix of, as I know you, like the broadcast journalism professional. Like you're so polished and you're so it's like there's no coaching at all, which I love. I don't have to tell you anything. In fact, I'm taking notes on you. So everybody listening and watching this, you're in for an absolute professional level of journalism. Appearing on the other side of this conversation, you're just going to have to deal with me because Heather's a pro on that.
A lot more fun than the anchor desk, though. I mean, have to say.
Yeah, again, there's no teleprompter though, so
that's right.
This is raw, unscripted. Yeah, we are going unscripted, but you're also, as if that wasn't enough, but you're a corporate negotiator, you're an entrepreneur, you're a keynote speaker, you light up stages, you help professionals across all sorts of industries, which is near and dear to my heart because we both kind of love to share what we love with other people and help them get better at what they want to do. So welcome to Divorce Curious.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but I think it lends well to whatever the heck we're going to end up talking about, right?
Yeah.
And thank you for the awesome introduction. It's been a wild journey. As you mentioned, I started as a news anchor. I have a seminary master's degree thrown in there. That one doesn't always come up. I know, right? And then, as you mentioned, I've also done big corporate negotiations for the last about 13 years. And in the last year and a half, moved into professional keynote speaking. I run my business as a fractional COO. I travel the nation speaking and teaching. Like you said, I think we're both educators at heart. And I know from some of our chats that we just care deeply about how other people are doing and how can we leave people better than they found them.
Always.
And I honestly think that has been a common thread throughout all of these careers for me is like, how do I leave this better in some way? So I think you're right. I call myself kind of a walking dichotomy. I've got this very polished, professional communication expert thing. And then I'm also sitting here drinking my coffee and I probably have lipstick on my teeth at some point. Like,
that's part of the game. We keep it really real here at Divorce Curious. Yeah. I always joke that people that are too polished make me suspicious.
No one can be that all the time. No. Come on. Even on a news show, like we have mistakes and we giggle and things happen. So come on.
I call them the shiny plastics, like the people that are just so polished and never crack the facade. And you're like, you probably have bodies in your freezer.
You've got something going on under the surface there. right?
Maybe not bodies in the freezer
But
necessarily,
something.
but
But
some sort of
something.
something. Your breath smells. I don't know. Like there's people that are too perfect have to have some sort of flaw if they have to work that hard to conceal it. That's an unofficial, non-professional opinion, by the way. That's just like a Lisa hot take. So
Yeah, it's a personal red flag. I get it.
oh my God,
You
red
know what's
flags.
funny? I think, though, that a lot of people who maybe look at careers like this from the outside think that, oh, like, nothing's wrong. This is who she is all the time. Always polished, always professional. Oh, this is glamorous. No.
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 Literally zero of those things. Yeah, ever.
Right? I wish people understood that more, but maybe that's part of our job, is to show that you can be all of these things, and not only can you should be really human about it too.
Yeah. Again, I think that's what I'm learning, especially in this context, because like you know, I speak on all sorts of topics and I'm in front of all different types of audiences. And the thing I love about the audience here is like we're in it together.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've been through a messy divorce. I
Some
can't wait
hard
to get
stuff.
into some of your stories on your relationship trail. I think one of the things I really am hoping for today is that you can bring some perspective with all the things that you know and do, especially around, like you mentioned, red flags earlier, right? So the communication aspect, what are you listening for? What are you looking for? What are
Ooh,
things you're hearing
so
around
good.
red flags? And then I think something that doesn't get called by the right name most of the time in relationships, we call it conversations or navigating conflict, but there's such a huge amount of negotiation from
Absolutely.
that first date to getting the second date to moving into, committed relationships, engagements, getting married, and then of course,
And just
divorce.
ongoing life with a partner. It's a
Yes.
constant. Oh, yes.
Always. So I think most of that's going to come out today.
I think
And
so too.
so, if you stick around with us as you're listening or watching this, like I feel like it's going to get a little spicy because
We might go to some places. We've got some stories to tell.
oh
We've
my
got
God.
some things to bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love one of the things on your website, that it's the knowing when to speak, what to say, and how to make it count. And I know
Yeah.
your website is very like corporate facing and for
It
the
is.
speaking that you're
Very,
doing,
very keynote speaker. Yeah.
but I don't think it's any different. Like, how do you translate that, or how do you see that translating into, for the people that are listening and watching this right now, like when to speak, what to say, and how to make it count? Like,
Mhm.
what are some give us some pro tips as we think about the conversations that we're approaching with the people at the heart level negotiation.
I love that you called it heart level negotiation, because that's exactly what it is. And I'm glad you brought this up, because while, yes, the website is very corporate, keynote speaker, so much of what I bring to the stage and the classrooms is, hey, everyone in here who came in here thinking that we're talking business, sure, but this applies to your personal life as well. In fact, maybe even more.
Yeah.
So, specifically from the, how do we speak? When do we speak? Even why do we communicate? I think one of the first things we should consider is everything comes down to people, and people are largely the same. That
Mm,
doesn't mean that we don't have different goals, different personalities, different whatever, but people are largely motivated by a lot of the same things, that being connection, that
yes.
being, clarity, understanding. When you understand how people are working on the inside, and once you figure out how to tap into that, then whether you're negotiating a seven-figure deal or negotiating your upcoming marriage and the terms of your life together, you're kind of dealing with the same things.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand about the heart of communication and negotiation. This isn't just skill. In fact, I would argue it's kind of not. You may have even heard me say this before, because I harp on it. I hate the term soft skills. I hate that term,
All day, all day, all day.
because these are not
Such a
soft
misnomer.
things.
Yeah.
In fact, these are more important than the technical skills that we're often taught in business, as entrepreneurs, in classrooms. This is the more important stuff. It's getting into the mindset of the person you're talking to. It's having clarity about what you actually want to translate before you enter into a conversation with your spouse.
You mean we don't just show up with our big feelings and hope for the best, Heather?
Weird. I mean, I've tried that. Hasn't worked super well. How about you, Lisa?
My record's not great. So and I'm a very off the cuff kind of kid on the personal side of things. So I would recommend a game plan. Listen to Heather, please.
Right. And that doesn't mean there's not room and necessity when it comes to quick back and forth and thinking on your feet. That is some skill and some practice involved. But yeah, even something like, hey, do you actually know what you want to get across? Are you responding? Are you reacting? How much emotional control do you have right now over yourself? And can you help temper that in someone else? That's advanced.
Co-regulation? Right? This is a level 400 class right here.
That's what I mean, though. And that's part of what surprises people in my teaching and speaking is, friends, this isn't just in a business context.
Right.
This applies to every area of your life. And the more you can hone in on these things professionally and personally, I think that's more important. And I don't always get to talk about that from a stage. Yeah. So I love that we're talking about that here. I think bringing that heart level stuff to your personal life, whether we call it soft skill or whatever we want to call it, gosh, isn't that kind of the point?
I think so. And the funny thing is there's nobody books you because they think you're going to be they don't think you're going to be a double threat or a triple threat, right? They're like, oh, business skills and winning negotiations and making money and leadership.
And then I get up there and surprise.
And then you're like, oh, let's take a look at you as a person. And do you see any patterns that maybe smack familiar between how you communicate at home and how that shows up with you in the workplace? Yeah. And then you can kind of start to see these light bulbs. It's like suspicion first of how much are you going to
what is she going to talk to us about here?
Yeah. And then you see the light bulbs start to go on. It's like, oh, she's not just and you could do a whole keynote on nothing but business terms and you can see it hit people where they're like, I'm not so great at this.
I find that especially with leadership groups, leaders, they just naturally have something different in them. That's what often makes really great leaders can also lead to really terrible leaders. And once they really understand, hey, again, this isn't so much about the strategy. This isn't so much about the metrics. It's about the people around you and under you and above you and how you are interacting with them and how you are translating to them. And are you able to be what they need in those moments? Prioritize the people. That's going to get you to the performance. So business leaders, that's the most fun. Because when that light bulb turns on, game changer.
Yeah. I love to see the breakthrough. And I like the conviction sometimes. You can see conviction hit somebody's face when you're talking about the optimal way to maybe approach something or how to bring people into those decisions. And they're like, oh, it
maybe
always
I
amazes
done
me.
It that way.
Yeah. When you're sitting with a group of
those mistakes. The reason you and I are able to get up there and talk about these things is because we've learned it the hard way too.
Yeah.
So again, we got to show and be vulnerable and be human. We've made the mistakes.
Doing the Lord's work right there.
That's right.
Yeah. I always joke it's all fun and games. On a lot of big projects, we spend so much time talking about the technology and the staging and the timing and the budget and the specs and the requirements. And it's all fun and games until the people show up. And then your plans don't matter if your people aren't bought in. And so it's the most overlooked, underplanned part of any major, companies will drop $100 million on a giant technology transformation and then be like, nah, we're good on change management. We don't really need it. People will just do it. I'm like,
no. What a waste.
Or will they?
What a waste of money and time because you didn't think about that and plan that. The most important part, the people from the get-go.
Yeah. Yes. So let's translate this into relationship, into context here because not that it's, for me, it's readily apparent. I don't make any assumptions about what tracks with other people. So if we're looking at, let's just start with, you brought up so many great points. Let's talk about intentional communication, the when, where, and what's, right? How do you not be just the reactor or the bull in the china shop? How do you kind of approach the strategy in those more personal conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for me personally, and what I would certainly recommend for people listening, before you head into any conversation that you know is probably going to be a little difficult. These are hard conversations, right? Relationships are hard.
They're
They can be
spicy. No doubt.
wonderful, but it's difficult
Yeah.
to do life with someone else because you're very different people. Before you head into any conversation that you know is going to be difficult, you have to, again, intentionally think through, what outcome am I hoping for?
Oh, there it is. Right there. Right
Right?
there. Yep.
You don't just head
There it is.
into it to unleash. You don't just
Right.
head into it because I have something to say. Wonderful, but why? So I think in these personal, relational conversations, we still have to know our why, because that's going to help guide the conversation. Once you have your why, what am I hoping for here? What's the outcome I'm going for? Why am I about to have this conversation? Then I would suggest you take a minute. Maybe that's overnight. Maybe you don't have that much time. Okay. Head to your quiet spot for just a little bit to make sure that you've really got it right. Think through, okay, what's going to come up? How do I want to say it? If everything goes perfectly, how do I want this to come out of my mouth? Because
That's such a good frame. Yeah.
typically once things get heated and emotions run wild, it doesn't really come out of your mouth the way you want it to, does it?
And that's not when I'm my most elegant and
No.
controlled. No.
Same. And so if you can practice that, as silly as that sounds, even rehearse it in your head a little bit, then as soon as your nervous system takes over and you're in the moment, still not a guarantee, but it's more likely that you're going to mentally be able to come back to, this is why I'm doing this. This is what I'm trying to say. I think that's the best preparation going into any of these really hard conversations. And then, of course, we get more into, you can and should intentionally try not to keep raising the emotional heat, shall we say. You want to intentionally try to keep actually bringing it down, especially if you're better at this than your partner.
Oh.
You shouldn't have to,
Not a
and
fair
that drives
fight.
me nuts.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't have to, but relationships are never 50-50. If
Yeah.
you're better at this than your partner, then I don't know, maybe it's some extra responsibility or onus on you to try to help bring both of you down so that you can have a productive conversation. Otherwise, you won't.
Yeah.
That's something that I have experienced and that I've seen quite often, is this escalation pattern.
Yeah.
And that happens in business negotiations too.
Oh, yes, it does. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does.
So
Often,
again, this
frequently.
translates,
Yeah.
but I think that is one of the number one disasters,
Yeah.
potential disasters in a conversation. It will derail things. So the more intentional we can be about not letting that happen, the better off we are.
Okay, so let's make this super tactical, because part of why Divorce Cures exists is to like give people listening and watching this something they walk out the door with and can use today.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm in a relationship, or I'm dating somebody, or I'm partnered, and the conversation starts with maybe a criticism.
Oof.
Or
that's a hard startup, isn't it?
Articulated disappointment. And it doesn't seem like the big deal to the mouth it came out of, but to the person that received it, it's like, oh, and then the scripts come out, right? Like, this is why you're terrible, and this is why you're terrible, and this is why you're always wrong, and this is why I'm always wrong. If you are staring down the path of a script, right? You know how we've had this argument so many times.
Yeah. Yep.
What is there? Are there some good tips around like maybe pattern interruption, or even like behaviors that, again, it's usually one person over the other that has a little bit more awareness and can kind of steer whether we're going straight into the brick wall or whether we can avoid it? Are there any like tactical things that somebody can do when they're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm actually thinking to a specific conversation that's burned in my brain with an X.
I had a script. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I'm asking for myself as much as anybody else.
It's just, we've all had those.
Okay, Heather, where can people find you? Because obviously now they know how incredible you are, both as a eligible bachelorette and
Right?
also as a professional, a
Yes.
speaker, a keynote. Where can they go to connect with you?
So I have a pretty unique name, Heather DeSiena. If you Google that, all the stuff's going to pop up because I don't think anyone else has that name. So that's pretty easy. I've got the website that's more for keynote speaking. So, hey, if you liked what you heard today and you have an event, a group that you want to talk through some of this communication work, I'm your gal. For the dating prospects, Instagram is probably best. It's Heather DeSiena. And for the professional, and I am very active on LinkedIn, find me there. I love connecting, by the way. I really do. Like, it's one of my life's joys to connect. So
Yeah.
if you want
I
to reach
think we got
out,
introduced and we're on a call like the
I know
next day
that's
or
what I
something.
mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fun for me, and I'm curious, and I want to know about you. So shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, on Instagram, whatever. I will respond. I love hearing what other people hear from conversations like this. So yes, find me wherever makes the most sense for you. I would love to connect.
Send your eligible male friends,
Send your guide.
high quality eligible male friends to the @. They'll be in the show notes.
That's the key. They have to be high quality. They have to be eligible.
Or
Okay.
send them to me first. I'll do a little forensic
Let Lisa
interview,
vet them.
coursework on them first, and then we'll move the eligible ones on to the next round. But
Deal.
this is so fun. Oh
This
my
is great.
God. Oh my God. Okay. So everything's going to be in show notes and comments wherever you're watching this or listening to this. You're going to get what you need. We'll send you to the right place. But in the meantime, if you are in that, like, I don't even really know what's happening, I'm not sure what I want next, I have made a super easy guide for you. It's the Evaluate Your Marriage, or it can be your relationship. It's a workbook. You can download it at my website, lisamitchell.biz/podcast. You can get all the episodes there because I'm lucky that I know a lot of really amazing, brilliant, talented people, and they all say yes to come on the podcast. So it's like my favorite way to get to chat with people I already love and trust and get to share with everybody listening and watching here. So Heather,
So fun.
banger episode as promised. I love it when we can deliver, and it won't be the last. I'm pretty
already
sure.
planning our next conversation in my head. So I'll be ready. You better be ready too.
Love
Thanks
it.
again for having me.
Absolutely. And divorce curious friends, I'm going to end it like I always do and just encourage you to stay curious and keep your eye open for eligible bachelors.
Curious.
that we
Ask
can
the
send to Heather.
questions. Ask
Love
the
it.
questions.
All right, guys, take care. Until next episode.
Bye.
All right, that's a wrap on part 1 of my interview with Heather DeSiena. You learned all about the art of heart level negotiations. Part 2 will be understanding that sometimes no deal is better than a bad deal. And that will be followed by part 3, which is going to be putting a firm line. It's all about dating right now, and it's swiping left on mediocre. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, share. We have 2 more great episodes coming up with Heather DeSiena.